The only 3 exercises you need to have huge glutes. When it comes to training your glutes, we generally have 3 types of people. Those who normally train with compound and isolation exercises, those who believe that squatting alone is enough, and the worst of them, men who believe that training glutes is a woman's thing. And here comes the worst. Most men belong to the 2nd and 3rd groups. If you also think this way, here's a basic piece of information. The gluteus maximus, responsible for hip extension and lateral rotation, is the largest muscle in the human body. Because they are so large, you need to train them with a specific strategy. That's why in this video, you will see the only truly effective exercises to increase the size of your glutes, based on scientific studies and proven techniques. But first, take a look at the 5 main benefits, proven by science, that you are missing out on by not training your glutes. Benefit number 5. It helps to avoid accumulating belly fat. Although it may seem strange to relate strong glutes to abdominal fat, there is an important physiological context here. A body that works with more muscular efficiency tends to speed up the metabolism, since lean mass directly influences caloric expenditure. Strong and active glutes contribute to a higher caloric burn in daily activities and during workouts. Of course, there is no magic button that burns fat only in the belly, but when you have a muscle as large and active as the gluteus functioning well, the entire body benefits metabolically. Benefit number 4. It improves hip stability. When your glutes are well trained, they act like an anchor that keeps the hip firm and stable. This stability helps to prevent compensations in other muscles and joints, especially around the knee and lower back. It is common to see people suffering from pain or instability in the hips, precisely because their glutes do not receive proper attention. Strengthening this area means having more security when walking, climbing stairs, and performing daily movements. Additionally, this stability is crucial for those who play contact sports or engage in activities that require quick changes of direction, as it reduces the risk of twists and injuries. Benefit number 3. Improved posture. Weak glutes contribute to the tilting of the pelvis and can cause misalignment that is reflected throughout the entire posterior chain of the body. When you strengthen your glutes, it helps to keep the pelvis in a neutral position, relieving the overload on the lower back and intervertebral discs. This way, you stand more upright, distribute your body weight better, and reduce that hunched or compensatory aspect that so harms the spine. Good posture not only prevents pain, but also gives off a more confident impression. Benefit number 2. Preventing injuries. Many muscular and joint injuries are associated with weak glutes. When this musculature is not well conditioned, the body seeks compensations in other areas, overloading structures such as the knees, ankles, and spine. That is when tendinitis, ligament overloads, and chronic pains arise, which can keep you out of training for weeks or even months. Strengthening the glutes helps harmonize movement, maintaining the alignment of the joints and ensuring that each part of the body performs its function. The more balanced the system, the lower the chance of developing an injury, and this applies both to professional athletes and those simply seeking health and well-being. Benefit number 1. Preventing lower back pain. Lower back pain is a very common complaint, and one of the main causes is precisely the weakness in the glutes. When these muscles are not functioning at full capacity, the lower back is forced to assume most of the work of stabilizing the trunk. The result is fatigue, excessive tension, and, in many cases, the onset of chronic pain. Strengthening and learning to properly activate the glutes relieves this overload, allowing the lower back to work in a more balanced way. With a program of specific exercises and postural correction, it is possible to reduce and even eliminate the infamous back pain, greatly improving quality of life. Another aspect you should consider is the strong aesthetic appeal of well-toned glutes, which often symbolize vitality and strength, qualities that many women find attractive. But okay, now that you understand why it is important to train this muscle, before we delve into the main exercises, there is a golden tip that many ignore: how to better activate the glutes. The answer is to press the heel against the ground during movements. This seemingly simple gesture makes all the difference in glute activation. By consciously pushing the heel, you recruit more fibers of the gluteus maximus, feeling a stronger and more effective contraction. Want immediate proof? Try it right now. Contract your glutes by pushing your heel into the ground and notice how they become much more engaged. This activation improves motor control and ensures that you truly put your glutes to work, rather than letting the quadriceps or lower back do all the effort. When you bring this bodily awareness to squats, deadlifts, or even the simple act of standing, the gain in stability and strength is impressive. So remember, activate your glutes via the heel. That is the starting point for any exercise aimed at developing this musculature. Now let's move on to the exercises. Exercise number 3, Bulgarian split squat. The main characteristic of the Bulgarian split squat is working each leg unilaterally, which means you will more intensely isolate the side that is being exercised. Regarding the glutes, this movement offers several benefits. First, it requires the gluteus maximus to be extremely active to stabilize the hip. At the same time, the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus also come into action to maintain balance in the front leg. This results in complete muscle work, as every fiber needs to cooperate so that you do not lose stability. The Bulgarian split squat is also considered a great exercise for glutes because it allows a greater range of motion, especially when compared to some bilateral exercises. When the back leg is supported on a bench or a box, you can lower down to a point where the glute muscle is truly forced to stretch. On the way up, forcing the heel into the ground guarantees an explosive contraction, reinforcing the entire glute complex. In terms of targeted parts, although it is a comprehensive leg exercise, the main focus remains on the gluteus maximus and also the medius, which works hard to maintain the alignment of the knee and hip. To perform the Bulgarian split squat correctly, place the upper part of your back foot on a bench that is approximately at the height of your knees. Position your front foot firmly on the ground, remembering to keep the heel as the point of emphasis. Keep your trunk upright, but avoid exaggerating the forward or backward tilt. Slowly lower yourself by bending the knee of the front leg, feeling the glute muscles stretch. At that moment, be careful that the knee does not stray too far inward or outward, as this can jeopardize the joint structures and reduce the exercise's effectiveness. As soon as you reach the lowest point, return in a controlled manner, strongly pushing the heel into the ground to activate the gluteus maximus and rise. Among the most common mistakes is a lack of hip stability, causing the body to sway sideways. Another frequent error is to support only the tip of the back foot, instead of leaving the upper part of the foot on the bench, which can create unnecessary tension in the ankle and make it difficult to focus on the glute muscles. There are also those who simply drop down without control, which increases the risk of injury and decreases muscular activation. Remember that control and contraction must be present in every phase of the movement, because these factors will make your glutes respond and grow. As for the number of sets, a good initial recommendation is to perform 3 to 4 sets for each leg, with approximately 8 to 12 repetitions per set. This repetition range is efficient for promoting both hypertrophy and muscular endurance. As you progress, you can increase the load using dumbbells or bars, and even vary the range of motion by lowering a little further, or maintaining a slower execution to intensify the time under tension. Before we continue to exercise number 2, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because in times when many spread junk on the internet for money, having constant access to correct science-based information is what will make you progress in the long run in the world of bodybuilding. Exercise number 2, glute bridge. The glute bridge is another essential exercise for those looking to maximize the growth, strength, and stabilization of the glutes. Unlike standing movements, it puts you in direct contact with the ground, allowing you to focus almost exclusively on glute activation and better isolate the posterior region of the body. Many physical education professionals consider this exercise a staple, as it can be performed by beginners and advanced trainees alike, with variations that include using a bar, extra weights, or resistance bands. The most notable benefit of the glute bridge is its ability to emphasize the gluteus maximus, the larger and more visible portion of the musculature. At the same time, parts such as the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus also come into action to keep the hip stable and aligned, especially if you later include unilateral variations. The reason it is so great for the glutes lies precisely in the body position, with your back supported on the floor, or on an elevated bench in the case of the hip thrust. The focus is on pushing the hip upward, using primarily the strength of the glutes. To perform the glute bridge correctly, start by lying on your back on the ground, with your knees bent and your feet supported, ideally at hip width. Once again, emphasize the heel. Press it against the ground to guarantee the full activation of the glutes. Raise your hip until you form a straight line from your shoulders to your knees, contracting the glutes firmly at the peak of the movement. Keep your abdomen slightly tense to prevent your lower back from arching excessively. Then, lower your hip back to the ground in a controlled manner, without simply letting it drop. This control is crucial to keep the glutes working at maximum throughout the exercise. Among the most common mistakes with the glute bridge is only partially elevating the hip, which does not fully exploit the glute's contraction potential. Another frequent misstep is allowing the knee to open or close too much, hindering hip stability. It is essential to maintain tension in the muscles and avoid cheating by using the lower back or leveraging the arms on the ground. When executed correctly, you will feel a considerable burn in the glutes, especially if you hold a small pause of 1 to 2 seconds at the top of the movement. In terms of sets, it is recommended to start with 3 to 4 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions. This range is great for beginners, as it aids in motor learning and builds muscular endurance in the region. As you progress, you can place a weighted bar at hip level. Additionally, it is possible to perform the unilateral variation, keeping only one foot supported on the ground while the other leg is extended in the air, which makes the glutes work even harder. The fact that the glute bridge is performed on the ground also benefits those with lower back pain, as it minimizes the load on the spine and focuses on isolating the target muscle. The same logic applies to people who are in the rehabilitation phase or who have movement limitations in the knees. For those seeking hypertrophy, the glute bridge can be inserted either at the beginning or at the end of the workout, depending on the strategy and the level of fatigue. When used as the first exercise, it will have greater intensity. If placed at the end, it helps to finish the workout on a high note, exhausting the glute muscle fibers. Exercise number 1, Romanian deadlift. Unlike the conventional deadlift, where you start with the bar on the ground, the Romanian deadlift prioritizes the eccentric phase, keeping the bar or dumbbells close to the body while you hinge at the hip. It is precisely this control during the descent that intensifies the activation of the glutes and the hamstring muscles. Why is it so effective for the glutes? Because the movement of bending at the hip with the legs slightly bent stretches the posterior chain, requiring the glutes to work to stabilize and, subsequently, bring the body back to an upright position. In addition, the contraction at the end of the movement, when you return to the initial posture, offers an intense stimulus to the gluteus maximus. To perform it correctly, stand with your feet at hip width, holding the bar or a pair of dumbbells in front of your thighs. Keep your abdomen firm and your lower back neutral, without arching inward or outward. Begin the movement by projecting the hip backward, allowing your trunk to lean slightly forward. As you lower, slide the bar or weights close to your legs, feeling the stretch in the hamstrings and glutes. Your spine should remain aligned, and the knee should not bend excessively. The idea is to maintain a slight flexion. When you reach a point where you feel the posterior musculature well stretched, start to rise by pushing your heels into the ground and contracting the glutes vigorously. Some common mistakes include bending the knees too much, turning the movement into almost a squat. There are also those who let the bar drift away from the body, increasing the lever arm and unnecessarily pressuring the lower back. It is fundamental to keep the bar close to the legs and the chest open. Another important point is to avoid raising the head too much or letting it drop. The ideal is to follow the movement of the trunk, keeping the neck in a neutral position. It is common to start with 3 to 4 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions, as the Romanian deadlift requires considerable attention to technique. The load should be progressively adjusted as you evolve, since it is an exercise that can be quite challenging when performed with high weights. However, the priority will always be perfect execution. It is better to use less weight and work the muscle correctly than to try to impress with high loads and end up injured or failing to properly activate the glutes. Also, remember to adequately warm up your lower back and hips before starting the exercise, as this significantly reduces the chances of mishaps. Bonus exercise: Abductor machine. Unlike the other exercises mentioned, the Abductor machine requires specific gym equipment, which is why I left it for last as an extra for those who have access to this apparatus. On the Abductor machine, you sit with your legs supported by lateral pads and perform the movement of spreading your legs against the resistance of the equipment. This exercise is particularly efficient for recruiting the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus, muscles that help with hip stability and the rounded shape of the glutes. The great advantage of the Abductor machine is that it isolates muscles that are not as engaged in traditional glute exercises focused on the gluteus maximus. This contributes to a more balanced appearance and greater hip stability. So if you train at a gym, it is worthwhile to include the abductor machine in your routine to complete the glute work and ensure overall development. To perform it correctly without hurting the hip, it is crucial to adjust the machine so that your knees are aligned with the apparatus's axis, avoiding overload on the ligaments. Keep your spine supported by the backrest and hold onto the handles for stability. Focus not only on moving the legs, but on actively contracting the gluteus medius. Common mistakes include using abrupt impulses, moving the trunk to gain extra force, or letting the lower back curve. The ideal is to perform the movement in a controlled manner, feeling the contraction in the glutes during the spreading phase. In terms of sets, 3 to 4 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions are usually sufficient to effectively stimulate the region. Now, one last warning. Unfortunately, even if you perform all these great glute exercises, you will not see results if you are committing some of the 11 most common mistakes that people who train often make, which throw their workouts completely away. If you want to know what they are, we have a video appearing right now on your screen, showing and explaining each one of them. Thank you for watching up to here, and may God bless you, my friend.